Wow.
I'm going to ask everybody to get seated so we can start our 4 o'clock meeting. Our first order of business is our Environmental Management Committee. I think we have an update.
County council first. Were you going to do county council first for recognitions?
Let me do this environmental real quick, and then I'll come back. So I'm going to turn this over to Chairman Moody.
Mr. Chairman, we don't have the minutes from last meeting yet. We'll have that for our next environmental management meeting, but we have our vendor here to give us an update on recycling collections.
Good evening, Chairman, Council, and staff. Brief update from the last meeting when we had discussed rolling out the 2 additional routes for the residential recycling collection. Those routes did start running on November the 7th, and then subsequently the following week for week 2 on November the 14th. Since those routes have been implemented, routes have been completed every day since November 7th with minimal issue and minimal concern. Seen a significant reduction in the number of missed pickups and the consistency with that, and had really nice results from those routes being implemented.
Any questions for the gentleman?
Mr.
Middleton.
Moody, thank you very much. I still feel, because I still receive calls and emails as early as last week, and thank you, for making those changes. I would like to see, when you say minimal, I don't see those numbers anywhere, and I don't see statistically from run reports or from anything that you potentially, as a measure or metric from the data that you may have on your end presented, except you're saying that these are kind of like minimal misses. I'm still very concerned. I do remember, Mr. Pryor, you saying at one point there could have been a contemplated sort of, having this service provider and another service provider, trying to make certain that we have at least enough capacity, because that seemed to have been the issue. So have you all hired more people? I know you've put a few more routes in play, but do you have the staffing necessary to make certain that all of the neighborhoods, all of the routes, all of the collections are done in a timely manner where we are getting down to like 0 misses? Or do we still have a staffing shortage?
No. We've brought in support when necessary. We continue to bring in support just to make sure that the routes are appropriately staffed, whether it be from sistering divisions or wherever it may be, to provide that support. But, we're staffed to a point where we've been servicing the routes every day since November 7th and finished every route every day since that time, and we've added the additional routes. The capacity issue, as we spoke about last time, was more related to the number of homes when we started the account, not necessarily the number of growth of homes that we've seen since then. So yes, we are appropriately situated for servicing the stops, and we could share the data with you on the number of missed pickups. The staff here has that data as well.
Yeah, I thought maybe that since we were having this update in this meeting tonight, you would have that as part of the presentation.
Okay, and certainly, if invited or asked to come back to future meetings, I'll put a presentation together. Just some of the conversations were around not putting a formal presentation together, but I can communicate that to staff. They could pull it out of Tower as well. I can tell you that since those routes have been implemented, there hasn't been a week above 200 misses. Many of those weeks in the 160 to 170 range. We also do what's called a hot list with your staff. If there's an escalated issue or concern that they may have, or something that comes from the staff or from council, and we've seen several days, full days, where there's been no related hot list activity, where previously that would be much more frequent. So we've seen those escalations, a number of, kind of hot issues, quote unquote, have drastically dissipated.
But I'm here to say that probably the hot issues that drastically dissipated elsewhere are the same hot issues that I'm still experiencing in my district.
Sure.
And so I don't know, I'm not asking for any preference, but certainly as it relates to the same neighborhood, same, sort of houses, same misses in District 6.
Well, I would love to work with staff on finding out where those particular areas are, particular issues are. One thing that I had requested was, anytime an escalation comes across to this council, that I personally be copied on it so that I can follow up with resolution with the local team on that. There's a list that gets sent to me every week of issues that come from council, what the resolution is, who was followed up with, and what the process was that for. So certainly, if there's items that, we need to be made aware of, or particularly in your district that we need to respond to, I'm more than happy to take a look at that.
Mr. Middleton, might I suggest we have Mr. Rudd or Ms. Ham speak to that? Maybe they've got some data at hand that might answer your questions. Could we do that?
Yes, sir. Mr. Loach is correct. The number of misses has dropped significantly since the end of October. We were averaging 396 misses a week. The last several weeks, that was as low as 88 misses for the week. Now, that's not broken down by district, and we can definitely work with you to kind of define what's going on specifically in your district. And on the hot list items, end of February or October, we were looking at 168 a week. Last couple of weeks, that's been down to around 24 complaints a week. So we're seeing a definite improvement in performance. There may be some specific items we still need to look at, but overall, performance has improved drastically.
Thank you very much.
Good. Mr. Werman, this is Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this question is probably more for Mr. Rudd, but I know at one point, we were working on, you've got the situation where the whole street might be missed, but only one person calls. Have we made any progress on that, or do we still kind of need to be kind of telling everybody, call for yourself, call for your neighbors, tell them to call too, that sort of thing?
It's always best, the more people that call, the better.
Okay.
But what we're seeing in a lot of cases now where we get a report of the whole street being missed and we get out there and it's one can on the street, or we get a report of 50 cans being missed and we get out there and it's 8. We had an incident like that today. So, it is improving. We are working on our reporting system and our customer service system to expedite when Republic receives complaints, so that'll be more in real time and allow them to address issues quicker. And it'll also give us better tracking of complaints. So that should be done within the next couple of weeks, and we hope that will further improve the system.
Mrs. Johnson? I'm sorry, you're done? No, Ms. Johnson.
Appreciate it.
Right, thank you, sir. So I did not report this missed pickup on South Grimmel Road, but I noticed that both South Grimmel and Grimmel Road had the pickups missed.
Okay.
The whole entire road. I did see the truck come in, and it went to the elementary school, but it kept right on going after that. It did not stop to the residents. So the truck was there, and I can't understand why it did not stop to the residents. Don't we use the same truck?
Well, it could have been a commercial collection truck. There's several reasons why it may not have been picked up, but we will speak to Republic and get that taken care of.
And I have to say that, just like I did not call for that particular pickup, a lot of residents don't call. So although I appreciate you saying that the missed pickups has dropped, but we don't know who's not reporting.
Right. And then we do encourage all residents that if they do get missed, that they need to give us a call to report it. And that will help us, streamline the system and deal with these issues.
I'll send the word out on this one.
Thank you.
Reverend Middleton.
Just a follow-up. So do we have any internal controls? I know if residents don't call, if we don't get complaints and forward those, do you all go out, just like Ms. Johnson has articulated, that there are neighborhoods or entire streets or whatever the case is there any internal controls, not necessarily through Republic, but through our environmental management department to go just ride through?
Yes, sir. We do have staff check on areas that have been problems in the past, and as those areas change, we change that list and ask them to go out and check those areas.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Good questions. I will say, I I have seen a marked drop-off in complaints, onesies and twosies here and there. If I had one complaint this time around, is a truck came at 6:30. And I can see all my neighbors running out to put their cans out. So, good problem to have, I guess. So, Mr. Chairman, that'll conclude our environmental. Oh, I'm sorry, Reverend Middleton.
It has nothing to do with Republic or recycling, but, you know, of course, in my district, and you know what I'm about to say, right, as it relates to the landfill, environmental management, and the birds, the crows from Grand Bees, I've had a lot of calls and individuals. Of course, my subdivision is the crossing, which is kind of like you have to go through Grand Bees to get to it. But I see it every day, and it is a problem. So is there some plan of action in place to mitigate that? Mess, literally the mess, is not getting any better.
Shouldn't have built that.
Councilman Middleton, what we're going to do, because we got called this week, procurement is going to help environmental management find a company that can bring out what we call an attack bird. What these attack birds will do is chase off the scavengers. And we will keep them out there for a period of time. The airport uses boom cannons, but that is not very effective because the birds figure it out and they come right back.
Right.
So what we're going to use is a company who will have an attack bird. They're trained birds, and what they do is they don't kill the birds, they just chase them off.
Do we have a timeline on that? Because, I mean, it is literally...
We're going to have to evaluate these firms first because we just got the request today, Monday. So we're looking at it, so we're going to evaluate a couple of firms, get back with environmental management, and see which firm works best.
It is a mess.
Yes.
Reverend Middleton, I just want to say, as soon as we were notified of this issue, obviously we jumped right on it to figure out what could be done. Had we known that this was a longstanding issue, we would have been on top of it prior to now.
Is that it? Anybody else?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Pryor, that ends our meeting.
All right, that concludes it. We're now going to go into our regularly scheduled county council meeting, and then I'll suspend that because our Board of Election and Voter Registration has a previous engagement. But I wanted them to come before council because they wanted to recognize us for the good work that we did working with them. And so item number one is the, Freedom of Information Act.
In compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of meeting was posted and agendas were distributed to media and persons requesting notification.
All right, item number two is resolutions and recognitions.
Items.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, ayes have it. I'm going to do 2A right now and allow them to leave, and then we'll suspend the meeting and go back to our Finance Committee, Planning and Public Works. Okay, so Mr. Kramer?
Chairman Pryor and members of council, Mr. Tootin, I am Christy Varnado, the chair of the Charleston County Board of Elections and Voter Registration, and with me is our executive director, Isaac Kramer. And yes, we are here to thank the council and the employees of Charleston County with our deepest appreciation and thanks for the support our office and board received in conjunction with making the November 2022 election in Charleston County, I think, the best run operation in the state. It was truly a team effort. The Day for Democracy program, led by Bill Tootin and CFO Corinne Altenheim, allowed over 120 county employees to work at the polls on Election Day, greatly improving the level of professionalism and competence at those locations. We are also grateful for the loan of staff from the Information Technology Department who provided key support as technicians on Election Day, and the iPhones provided by Telecom to each technician so they could use apps to respond to issues at polling locations. And then with the increased level of security threats and scrutiny experienced by both our office and election officials countrywide, we very much appreciate the funding County Council provided for our new security systems, new cameras, swipe badge entry, and additional security to protect our equipment and staff, as well as a full-time security guard at our building. And we wish to extend our gratitude to the Department of Public Safety for all of their assistance with security efforts leading up to and during the election, as well as for the cooperation and leadership of the Emergency Management Director, Joe Coates, and his staff in activating the EOC on Election Day. This key action allowed important information to be shared 24/7 with law enforcement and local municipalities and enabled us to respond to issues immediately in this highly charged climate. In addition, the board is grateful for the funding council has provided for new ramps installed in front of our building, which has facilitated public access and accommodation to voters who needed to visit our facility in person. So we thank you very much for your valuable contributions and support of our board and staff in serving the voters of Charleston County. And Isaac also has a few words.
So I want to thank each one of you because we've had a lot of concerns over the last couple of years with security. And I can tell you, being the gold standard of elections in this state means a lot, and we are. Everybody looks to Charleston County as a leader when it comes to elections. And I know for a fact there are many county governments that are not in a good relationship with the Board of Elections in their respective counties. So thank you for always ensuring we have the proper resources. And when we ever ask for anything, you are all wanting to listen and to see where you can help out. So I wanted just to recognize several folks that have meant a lot to a successful election season. First, Mr. Bill Tootin and his support for our department. I know I'm an appointed official, but Mr. Tootin has gone at tremendous lengths to ensure we have what we need to provide voters with free and fair elections. He is truly, I'm going to say this, a wonderful county administrator, and many county administrators in this state can learn from his leadership. Also, our support team, the leadership team here in Charleston County government is the best. From Corinne to Mr. Watson to Mr. Smalls to the whole DCAs, every step of the way. And did you know for the Day for Democracy program, we had our own DCAs at polling locations serving. That is true servant leadership. I mean, think about it. That's poll managers. They're working a full day to ensure to be a part of this program, and that is I'm very grateful for. Also, Lauren Knapp and Dale Middleton, we had so many things going behind the scenes in terms of security that nobody knew about, but Lauren and Dale were 100% in communication with me and our staff to make sure we were safe. Our staff were safe. Our poll workers were safe. So we have a fantastic team in Charleston County government, and I just wanted to recognize every single county employee who has helped us, every county council person who has helped us, and most importantly, our administrator who ensured that we had the best election in the state of South Carolina. And I can say that standing here, knowing about every county, all 46 counties, people look to Charleston County as the leader in the state when it comes to elections. And that's a thanks to you all. So I wanted to appreciate you. And we have a plaque that we wanted to award you. So I don't know, can we come up front?
Just give it right to Eric.
So we want to recognize y'all with this plaque. All right.
Okay. And,
Thank you.
And let me say, Isaac, I appreciate you bringing those concerns, that meeting we had. And we got it to Mr. Smalls and his staff for the security part and the building, and Mr. Tootin did his part with the rest. But I want you to know a lot of times we don't know, and if we don't know, we can't fix the problem. So I appreciate the meeting that you had, and my concerns was we wanted to make it handicap accessible, we wanted to make it safe, and give you the tools that you needed to have a successful election. And so this council salutes you and your staff for what you've done. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Yeah.
Okay? All right. So now we are going to suspend our county council meeting, and we're going to move to planning and public works. Mr. Darby, this is your committee. You have 2 items on the agenda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Salisbury?
Yes, sir, we have a request to rezone Buckland Plantation Land Development. And staff has a presentation for you that you also heard at the public hearing last month.
Move for approval. Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. None. Stands approved. Do we need to have this? Do you want to see the, could we just move on?
No, it's already been approved.
Okay.
And then item B is a
Mr.
request
Chairman.
to rezone
I think this is in my district. I think I talked to the young man the other day, and I got an email from him that he has set up various meetings with the community and has assured, and the lady that was making the complaint actually didn't live in the community, she lived across the street. And you can't expect him to fix her traffic problem, but he, I think is on the up. And I'm going to support this based on the information that I received, so I'm going to move for approval.
Second, Mr. Pryor, I too got the same information. Certainly, it used to be my district, so I'm, very interested in.
I give it back to you.
Well, I would take it back gladly and certainly support the efforts going on there. He set up a series of meetings with the community.
Yes.
He's very interested in trying to mitigate all issues that were addressed, and so I gladly second that.
All right.
All in favor of said agenda item?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed, it stands approved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Darby. We're going to move right now into our Finance Committee meeting. Let me get the agenda here now. Let's see, this is the finance. Okay. Item number 1 is consent agenda A, B, C.
Move for items A through F. A through F. Move for-
Okay, is there a second? Second by Ms. Honeycutt. Any discussion?
I
Yes.
just wanted to comment and thank our staff. All these grant monies, this is outstanding work finding all these additional monies. That keep it coming.
For the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Item 2A is a climate action plan, award of contract. What is
Move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Werman. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Item 3 is South Carolina Opioid Recovery Fund request to accept. What is the pleasure?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Johnson, second by Ms. Honeycutt. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Item 4A is mall clock completion. I see they got extension, but it's actually completion. What is the request to consider? I think Mr. Tootin had sent out a blue sheet. Was it a blue sheet or a yellow sheet? No, it's a yellow sheet. Yellow sheet explaining,
Letter from the secretary.
to the secretary and how it would be funded. They were asking for us to match the 150, which would have been 75 million.
Yes, sir.
The money would come out of the 420 million that was already allocated.
First transportation sales tax, yes,
All
sir.
right, so what is the pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I have the floor. Mr. Chairman, please, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. Swears is not here. He'll be here in a few minutes. And I'm going to ask that we move to something else to give him the opportunity to be here, sir.
Fair enough. I don't have a problem with doing
Thank you,
that.
sir.
Okay, so now we'll move with pay increases for employees. I had asked Mr. Tootin to give us a briefing on if we went from 5 to 10 up to, I think it was 5, 7, and 10. What it was, Mr. Tootin?
5, 10, 15.
5, 10, and 15. You have that sheet in front of you. But that was just for information. I wanted everybody to know because, the prices of goods and everything else is going up. And if we got good workers, we ought to compensate these workers. Nobody else have it.
I had it last week.
Yeah, last week. Can we get some copies of it? All right, and then we'll come back to this item. Okay? Now, let's move to the Sheriff's Office funding, full C.
Chair?
Yes, sir.
I would like to move to approve that we increase or based on the committee's recommendation of increasing the sheriff's budget and taking that out of fund balance or wherever.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Darby. Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Sass.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make it clear that I think all 9 of us understand that the salaries for the beginning deputies is a critical issue. And we have, we heard from the sheriff about that when this began. And we thought we had a plan to deal with that, and all of a sudden it changed. And so I'm certainly in favor of our personnel being paid more. in this case. I think it's warranted, but I don't like it coming out of fund balance. I still feel like the money that's left over in lapse pay would go a long way to covering that and not leaving our finance department in a hole starting out next year on the budget. That's why I'm probably going to vote against this. Thank you.
Ms. Honeycutt?
Still concerned, are we approving one of the options that was sent by the administrator?
Yes.
Which one?
That's the second one, taking it out of fund balance. I think it's on you. Do you have your sheet?
Yes, sir. I recall. I just didn't hear him say which option. There were
He
two.
said out of fund balance. He didn't say the option, but he said out of fund balance. Okay, Reverend Moody, Mr. Moody.
Reverend. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I would echo Mr. Sass. Cities and municipalities and counties across the state and the region are increasing pay. We do need to stay competitive. Richland County just did theirs and used the lapse pay, if I read that story correctly. So when the sheriff first pitched it to us in her blue book, she said she could cover the first 6 months or so until we got to budget time. So I think we ought to hold her to that. So I don't discount that we've got to be competitive in pay, and I support that. But I don't think it ought to come from the fund balance. I think she ought to cover it until we get to budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, Ms. Salisbury, call the roll.
Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt?
No.
Ms. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Hey.
Mr. Sass?
Nay.
Mr. Spears is absent. Mr. Werman? Aye. Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-3 and 1 absent.
Okay.
Mr. Pryor, I would like to say, sir, the email that Mr. Tootin sent, I did shot back 2 emails, and I told Mr. Tootin I'm sometimes shell-shocked at various things when council has voted for something and it doesn't seem to be moving as I thought it would. So I'm offering an apology to staff if I were in error in terms of my statement, Mr. Tootin and your staff, sir. That was not the purpose of it. It's just that I'm of the opinion that if and when council moves forward, that it should be done as well. So if I said anything wrong, my apologies, sir.
No apology necessary, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Darby. All right, so let's see what else we got. Waiting on Mr. Swears. Can somebody check and see how far he's away? But 2 issues I think I'd like to make council aware of while we are here. And Ms. Ham, I'm going to ask you the first one. The closing contract at our property on Calhoun Street for the center that Charleston Center, it was set for December the 22nd. Has the paperwork that's holding it up from being closed, that the city somehow say they got some kind of deed restriction on a piece of the property, has that been cleared up yet?
Since this is a pending contract, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but it appears all the details have been worked out and the city anticipates taking action in January.
And when?
In January, at their first meeting in January.
So that means we're going to have to extend the closing contract. So I think council needs to be made aware of that. Do we need to take a vote, or can we just direct the administrator to sign on that? Because I don't want the 22nd to come up and then it goes by and nobody knows anything about it. So what should we do to correct that situation?
As soon as we get the proper documentation, which should be finalized tomorrow, I can get it to Mr. Tootin. I don't believe that it is necessary for council to vote on it, but he should absolutely share with you that information.
All right, so we'll be extending it for how many, 30 days, 60 days?
Something to that nature, yes,
All right,
sir.
until the work is done, might be up to a certain amount of time. All right, so any question from council about that before we move on? Everybody understand what the administrators be doing, so when it comes up, you can't say he did something nobody knew nothing about. Okay, so Mr. Tootin, if you would just, give everybody the information when you get it. And for information purposes, I don't know if you sent out a blue sheet or not, but on the property at 995 Morrison, the easement, the applicant requested that the easement name be changed from one entity to another, and Mr. Tootin didn't, along with the attorney vetted that, and everything is okay, so Mr. Tootin was able to do that. So that has nothing to do with us and nothing to do with the contract, but they just wanted to have our permission to change the name from A to B, which is doable, and Mr. Tootin has already done that.
Yes, sir. It's in the contract, the term is assignment, I believe.
It was the assignment of easement to the actual company that's going to be doing the construction. It was a construction easement, so they assigned it to the appropriate
Okay,
company.
I just want everybody to be aware, so nobody can say they didn't know. So any question from council members before we move on? Okay, so it appears that,
Mr. Chairman, I might suggest if we want to wait for Mr. Swears for these two items, I'm sorry.
what I'm going to do is suspend this and go to
Yep.
public comment.
Absolutely.
Do we have any public hearings?
I can't
Oh,
do
you
the
can't do that
public
till
hearings
5.
until 5, yes,
All
sir.
right, so what I will do is suspend this meeting and then come back to it. So now we are going to move in to public comments where we allow the public to come before us and speak up to 2 minutes. We ask that you give us your name and address and govern yourself accordingly. Who is the first speaker?
We have 14 people. The first person is Bailey Vincent, and then Betsy LaForce.
You will line up behind her, the second speaker.
Bailey Vincent, 1161 Shadow Lake Circle, Mount Pleasant. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce and our 160,000 professionals. The Chamber has long been a supporter of the Mark Clark extension, and I urge Council to vote tonight to move the project to construction-ready status. We have many business leaders who wanted to be here tonight but could not, so I'm going to share some of their comments. As a business owner, we struggle to attract and retain employees due to ever-growing commute times. We are already behind the curve in relation to capacity demands. We cannot afford further delay. As a recruiter who interacts regularly with employees hoping to call this area home, I hear often about the need for transportation improvements. As a lifelong fifth-generation Charleston native, I remember my grandparents and parents talking about how the completion would improve their business and quality of life. We have watched and waited on this project long enough. It is time for action. The Chamber recognizes how important this project is for the future of our region. As part of our mission, we lobby at the state, local, and federal level. We're committed to working with Charleston County Council and our state and federal representatives to identify a funding solution to complete the Mark Clark extension. I want to thank County Council members for your time tonight and reiterate the business community's support of moving the Mark Clark extension to construction-ready status. Thank you.
Next.
Betsy LaForce, and then Bradley Taggart.
I'd like to transfer my slot to Jason Crowley.
Oh, I don't think you can do that. He has to sign up, so you have to speak for yourself.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman Pryor and members of County Council. My name is Betsy LaForce. I'm with the Coastal Conservation League at 131 Spring Street in Charleston. We have two primary concerns with the proposal to allocate $75 million towards the project this evening, which would not, in fact, get the project to construction-ready status. That would be closer to about 10 years from now. Two concerns, one being lack of funding plan. Back in May, Secretary Christy Hall asked for a couple of things from Council. First and foremost was a realistic and reasonable funding plan to show how the rest of the $1.78 billion that County Council will be responsible to fund will be financed over the life of this project. Taking $75 million from the transportation sales tax leaves a lot of questions to be asked, such as how will that impact the rest of the projects that pot of money is supposed to fund that are shovel-ready? Secondly, concerned around the timing, the process and procedure of this. This is the last meeting of County Council this year before new council members are sworn in January. This is only the beginning, continues to be the beginning of this project that will take a lot more time to flesh out, discuss, make decisions that should realistically include the two new members of council that will be sworn in January. So our ask is to consider delaying this decision to authorize funding and instead use this time to discuss the funding plan and let the public hear about the status of the current transportation sales tax, what the money is in that fund, how much the projects that are already identified will cost, And what will allocating this $75 million do to the future of those projects that are ready to be built now? We need relief today. We can't wait another 10 years to do a project that our grandparents were talking about and dreaming about. This is 2022, soon to be 2023 with 2 new council members. So we would ask that you respectfully delay this decision tonight and use the time to have
Thank you, ma'am.
Bradley Taggart, Glenda Miller.
Ms. Miller, are you there? Will you get up behind Mr. Taggart? Ms. Miller is here.
Bradley Taggart, 1633 Jesse Elizabeth Road, Johns Island. The co-founder of Charlestonians for I-526. 526 would save over 60 million driving miles per year, which is more than the distance from Earth to 3 different planets in our solar system. No other project or combination of county road projects delivers that kind of positive savings. 526 would save 51 million driving hours per year. The value of those hours, the current average wage is $1.26 billion of wasted time every year. Those lost hours aren't just money. There is a human toll. Parents who can't get to daycare to pick up their kids, and accidents occurring from traveling on crowded 2-lane roads. Can 526 be paid for? Absolutely it can. A wealthy county of over 400,000 people can build a 9-mile road. Build it in segments. Put a toll on it, like they did successfully down in Hilton Head, where they just finished paying off a major project. You are also legally allowed to use as much of the half-cent sales tax money as you choose. There are these and other options to pay for construction. However, without a prepared project and a bid, we don't know how much this project will actually cost us. Until then, it's all just speculation. We need to know what a bidder will complete this project for. The people sitting in traffic on Savannah Highway, Main Road, Maybank Highway, they deserve to know. The 11,000 locals that follow 526 on social media deserve to know. The 70-year-olds in this town that say, we've been trying to complete 526 since I was 20 years old, they deserve to know. So please vote to complete the prep work, and let's talk about how we can get 526 built. Thank you.
Who's next?
Glenda Miller, Joe Boykin.
You will line up behind.
Glenda Miller, 3377 Cottage Plantation Road on Johns Island. I was dismayed at the short notice we received about council's intention to vote on whether or not to spend $75 million to finish pre-construction activities for the Mark Clark extension. A decision of this magnitude should not be rushed into on the last meeting of the year with 48 hours of notice for the public to make arrangements to attend a 4 o'clock meeting. The decision to spend $75 million of hard-earned taxpayer dollars should not be made until there is a rational, fiscally responsible, and transparent plan in place for funding the additional estimated $1.78 billion to complete the project. This $1.78 billion is 5 times more than council's annual general fund budget. This also reminds me of our Congress passing legislation before anyone reads a bill. I would like to suggest that council pause in taking a vote to allow time for discussion, transparency, rational thought, and public input. In addition, I think the newly elected council, which will be seated in about 3 weeks, should be making these decisions. Although recent SCDOT surveys indicate the majority of respondents oppose this project, perhaps council should consider a countywide referendum before spending $2.2 billion. Thank you.
Joe Boykin, Josh Dix.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of council.
Pull that mic up, Joe, if you want to get it.
Thanks, sir. I'm regretfully here tonight to address y'all. I'm in receipt of an email that was circulated by B. Vincent of the charlestonchamber.org that states, with a change in council coming in January, there is no way of knowing how new council members will vote on the Mark Clark extension. This project is too important to leave it up to chance, and any further delays will derail the project completely. I'm here to represent myself as Councilman-elect District 8 Charleston County Council, as well as council member or Councilman-elect Mr. Kaprowski, we're going to be seated in 19 days. This is $150 million that's going to be allocated and expended. We are now the representatives of District 8 and District 2 respectively. We take issue that this vote would come in 48 hours notice with 19 days for us to be seated when we should be allowed to have a voice in this matter. We're going to bear the consequences of wherever this goes as far as approving or disapproval of it. Again, I would humbly ask y'all, respectfully ask y'all to table this matter or defer this matter so that myself and Councilman-elect Kaprowski can sit with this body, deliberate, and vote on this issue and have a part to play in this decision that's going to be with us for a long time. Thank you.
Do you have a copy of that email you said you got? Because I'd like to see it. I've never seen it. Yeah, bring it down because I never seen it, Joe.
Josh Dix,
Thank you. I
Denise
appreciate it.
Reynolds.
Josh Dix, I'm the Government Affairs Director for the Charleston Trident Association of Realtors. My address is 640 Rutledge Avenue, 29403. The Realtors have consistently been supportive of 526, and moving into construction status is an important milestone in this project's life. We need to start talking about the feasibility of this project, how we're going to stack not only county dollars, but state dollars, municipal dollars, and federal dollars. Our federal delegation is willing to have these conversations. We need to engage with our partners to learn how this process is going to take place. A lot of the comments that have been said today are absolutely true. This project has been talked about for decades and decades. We need to start thinking about how we're going to plan for the 6,000 to 7,000 entitled units that are coming to Johns Island, the future growth of Kiowa, the growth on Johns Island, Wadmalaw. These are areas that we need to not only address today, but plan for the next 10, 20 years, because that area is going to see a lot of growth over the next 5 to 10 years. And we need to get ahead of this conversation instead of always playing from behind. It is not too early to start talking about how we're going to plan, how we're going to finance, and how we're going to get to a construction-ready project. I want to support you and this project. We're happy to engage in any way we can, but we encourage the council to continue moving forward, make 526 a priority, and let's figure out how we're going to fund this project in the next 10 years. Thank you.
Denise Reynolds, Rick Voigt.
Good evening. My name is Denise Reynolds. I live at 5225 Parkside Drive, North Charleston. I'm here today to tell you in person that I believe it is fiscally irresponsible to authorize this $75 million for the Mark Clark extension at this time. The wording in the Finance Committee agenda speaks as if the decision has already been made to proceed with this extension project despite an unworkable $2.2 billion price tag. As you know, this continues to be a highly contentious issue. Authorizing this $75 million without any remotely clear idea where the remaining bulk of the cost will come from diverts this money from more feasible projects to help relieve congestion now. My fear is the money will be spent, and yet 526 may still never be extended. Pursuing the Mark Clark extension at the current price seems dependent on too many unknowns at this point, including the hope that voters will want an additional sales tax to fund the project. Please don't let the authorization of this money become a financial debacle for our county. Thank you.
Brenda Mitchell.
Thank you for your time this evening and for listening to all of us. I've been a business person for almost 40 years, responsible for billions of dollars. I'm now a small business owner and work by an adage taught to me years ago. Plan the work and work the plan. For Charleston to spend another $75 million on a project that has not yet been figured out how to pay for it seems to be putting the horse before the cart. I am opposed to approving this funding approval until we know the full funding plan. to fund $1.75 billion. Thank you for your time.
Brenda Mitchell, John Zilgar.
I want to thank council for allowing me to speak at this minute, but this is in recognition to Ms. Johnson, so do I address that now?
You got your 2 minutes, yes, ma'am. State your name and address for us, please.
Okay, it's Brenda Mitchell, 8782 Mitchell Road in Adams Run, South Carolina, 29426. And I just want to say to the council that I thank Ms. Johnson for her hard work and dedication to the Willtown community. She has been instrumental in helping to meet our basic needs that we have out there in our rural community. Such things as even the library mobile unit coming out and serving our community, Federal Health, the Parks and Rec is working diligently with us to renovate our parks so our community can have the things that we really do need out there. We have a food giveaway drive that goes on that feeds about 900 people every month. So she has been really great with us, and we want to just thank her, let her know how much we appreciate her for working with us so diligently through the years. So thank you, Ms. Johnson, for all your hard work.
My pleasure.
John Zilgar, Todd Richardson.
Good evening, John Zlogar, 5528 Frisco Lane. The issue tonight isn't should we build 526 or not. That's not what the topic is. The topic is, should we spend $75 million without first knowing if that money is going to actually build something? We have no idea what the funding currently is. We've heard from the special interest groups tonight that they've got a plan of hope. If any of them are actually business people, they would know that hope is not a plan. You actually need to put a plan, a financial plan together to understand if you should put more money into it now. If the money can be found, so be it. Build 526. But without a real plan in place, that money may very well just go up in smoke. I urge you to not approve that request. But I also urge you that since we've suddenly found $75 million, we can use that money today to actually improve the roads on Johns Island today. We can work on Main Road Segment B, something that's not being worked on at all. We can work on Upper River Road where they're putting a new elementary school and there's huge safety issues. We can work on and build the Southern Pitchfork. We can actually use that $75 million for asphalt as opposed to perhaps smoke. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Todd Richardson, Rich Thomas.
Withdrawn. Richardson.
Rich Thomas, Andrew Todd Burke.
Rich Thomas, Jesus.
Rich Thomas, 4360 Betsy Carrison Speedway on Johns Island. 6.5 months ago, you got the first revised cost estimate. It was $2.35 billion. Mr. Pryor wisely postponed discussion of that until Ms. Hall could come up here and give some details on that. Here we are almost 7 months later, 7.5 months later. And you and I had a discussion right here in which you said you committed to an open, fair, and transparent discussion of this project. Here we are now, December 15th, 2 days notice on a decision to spend $150 million, 75 of county taxpayer money, 75 of state taxpayer money, with no open, transparent, and fair discussion. I think that's pretty bad. I'm also looking at a document that Infrastructure Bank sent 6 years and 1 day ago, December 14, 2016. Said in fall of 2016, SCDOT provided the board an update on the cost of the proposed 526 extension. The board reaffirmed its $420 million commitment, provided that Charleston County submitted a plan to fund the balance of the project cost. Resolution gave the county until March 30th, 2016 Prior to that date, Chairman Summey requested an extension of that deadline, which the board granted, to April 8th, 2016. Unfortunately, the county did not respond with a funding plan 6 years ago. No funding plan then. 6 years and 1 day later, no funding plan today. And yet, you're talking about spending $150 million of taxpayer money on this fantasy with no concept, no idea, no plan on where the other $2 billion is going to come from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Todd Burke, Millicent Middleton.
Is Mr. Burke here?
Burke is not here.
Okay, Ms.
Middleton?
Ms. Middleton, and that's our last speaker.
Yes, ma'am. He's parking now.
Good evening, Apostle Millicent Trey. I'm Middleton here. I am coming from 6728 Maybank Highway, Wamala Island. Mr. Pryor, thank you first of all to allow us to speak on this matter. But what I can't tell you is that this is a serious problem, and the community on the islands, not just Johns Island, but all of us in the cluster are really, really animated about how this project is going to benefit us if the whole money is not allocated up front or even a plan. It would be fair to address this so that the community can get an understanding of how this is going to be completed, not to mention that there's other things other projects that's not being addressed, things like sidewalks where people are literally becoming roadkill on the island's highways, not to mention even in my property on Adams Run, South Carolina, that I gave my daughter where I raised up at. Incomplete highways, no ditches. We had to literally build access to get onto the property just for big construction trucks to go and clear her property for her home to get built. We need to be able to address small issues like that. That is way less, but even for the penny cent tax that was taken out, improper public transportation is another issue. Please allow us to address these issues with the committee before you vote. Thank you.
Okay, that's our last speaker. And we still got about 7 minutes for our, but now we're going to go back into our Finance Committee agenda. And we're now going to discuss 4A.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve.
Yes.
No, sorry, Miss Anna. Miss Johnson got it.
All right. Moved by Ms. Honeycutt, second by Ms. Johnson. Now it's open for discussion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Certainly, I vehemently oppose not discussing it. I think we should discuss it in the finance meeting, but then moving this tonight to a 5 o'clock county council meeting without having the opportunity to truly deliberate over, based on what we've heard tonight. I would like to know the status of our current transportation sales tax and how, the expenditure of $75 million from the county perspective would impact our current projects. I would like to know that, if indeed there is something that can be said to that. And I would also like to discuss, what is our funding plan? I do recognize that we can't pay for it all. There has to be a puzzle of funding in order for this to become a reality, to include the state, to include maybe what we've heard about, federal engagement on that level. We're not talking to at least I've never, been approached to, a convening of discussing this with anybody on any other level, except, just now seeing it on this agenda. We have certainly, I ran on, finishing 526. That was, one of my, campaign platform items, and we've not significantly discussed it in 2 years that I've been here. Certainly, we did have Secretary Hall come, and that gave me great hope, recognizing when she presented that, yes, we would need to have a plan of funding. And so when are we going to realistically and responsibly come up with some sort of funding plan to complete 526 from the county perspective? And I think that moving this tonight and then rushing it to a 5 o'clock meeting, if indeed, well, I see it on the council agenda.
I'll get to that.
Yeah, I don't even know how that happened, but I see it on the council agenda. And so I would not approve that going to a vote on that this evening.
Okay, well, let me first say, Reverend Melton, I don't disagree. To answer your question, I want to ask, when can we get some information? Can we have this information for him by Tuesday? What he's asking for about how to have any sales taxes being spent? And what else you wanted, Reverend?
Also, how that would impact the $75 million expenditure would impact our current projects or even the future funding of projects within the county using those funds, if we then allocated that elsewhere.
Do we have that by Tuesday? Yes, sir. We have that by Tuesday? Yes, sir. Okay, because we are going, since we move forward with the sheriff's fee, it requires 3 readings, so that means we're going to have 2 additional meetings, one on the 20th and one on the 31st.
Excellent.
So this, if it moves, passes tonight in finance, then we can move it until Tuesday, so that way it could be fair discussion, you get all your information.
Well, certainly I would come every day, to discuss it. I also recognize, I heard Mr. Boykin make a comment, and I did receive that email as well. I don't know who else was included on that email strand, but I read it. I read it myself. And I do agree, particularly being in a position a couple of years ago, relative to very weighty matters confronting the county and being in that transition loop. And we were included in some of those discussions even before being sworn in. And I thought that was extremely helpful, particularly knowing that it would be passed to us. And again, why does this have to be, even if we were able to schedule meetings every day, why does it have to happen before the new council persons are seated? Again, I've been here for 2 years. This becomes part of what I can't really, being a strategic planner myself, being an organizational, management, leadership and change catalyst, I can't really understand how county government works. Because if we have something of this magnitude that we have not systematically, strategically planned out from start to finish, having charrettes, well, I know we've had meetings about 526 itself, but I'm talking about the funding component of it to include us here on council. Where is the engagement and the intentionality around the funding of this thing? This should have been something based on committees, finance committee or whatever committees that and then convenings with our other partners to include state and federal partners. I just really feel that the work has not yet fully been done. And I support this. Lord knows I support it. But when do we do the work to make certain that we do have a plan? And so I think that these new people coming in, they have a voice, not new people coming in. I mean, Mr. Boykin and Mr. Kabrowski, they will add to this conversation in whatever ways. Mr. Swears, whom I respect very highly, signified to us that the persons who held the seat before Mr. Worman and I took these seats, voted in a very different way on matters that we came in and did not support. And so we cannot even assume their support on certain things. And so I would then say, slow it down and let them have their say on this matter.
Okay, anybody else before we move on?
Yes, sir, Mr. Pryor. I guess my question to you, sir, we've never argued publicly, but this is something dear to me. My question to you, sir, is why now?
This was brought to us,
why now, sir?
Mr. Darby, when Ms. Hall came here and gave us her information. She said she would send a letter back to this council. They received the letter, I believe it was on last week. And so staff brought this to us for information. Council has the authority to either move it forward or say slow it down. So I don't want anybody to get the intent that this was rushed in because of some end of the year deal, because some council members are coming in and some are going, because this is just important to the council members that are here than those that are leaving. It wouldn't be fair for me to take Ms. Johnson right away from her and give it to Mr. Boykin. I take Mr. Swears right away from him and give it to Mr. Kabrowski. So you it's a double-edged sword. They've been working on this for many, many years. Now, this is just the start in the beginning. I think all Ms. Hall is asking us to do is allow them to start the permitting process so they can get an accurate assessment of what needs to be done and how much it's going to cost. And during that 5 or 6 year tenure, we can identify funding, where it's going to come from. You know, some may say another half-penny sales tax, some may say federal money or state money, but it has to be some type of process to get to where we need to be. Now, Mr. Thomas, you said public involvement. Public will have involvement, but you have to start from somewhere. We can't have the public involved in every decision that we are going to make when it comes to the Secretary of State or somebody giving us information. We have to go on what we are given. And then when it comes time for public involvement with the charrettes and where the highway is going, there will be plenty of public involvement. So we are not disagreeing. It's just, if you want to be in on the very start, the beginning, where we just getting information, you see, that's the problem that I have. But nobody is trying to scam somebody or post something over somebody's head. We have been dealing with this since I've been on council, 18 years. And it always seems to me when it gets to the place where there's some type of movement, then there's always, well, we want to be involved, or we didn't get this, or we didn't get this. You knew this when you got the first information. You were posting this on Facebook when you got the first information and that letter from us all. So to say you didn't have time to look into it or be involved, that's incorrect, because you and your group, you had that information. And so that's where I'm at, Mr. Darby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
On that. So if
Well,
this
that was-
council wants to move it forward and come back on Tuesday and discuss it, we can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for answering my question. That was a question, sir. However, I'm just of the opinion that to move forward with the possibility of losing 75 million, as we lost millions before in the past, which I'm not going to bring up. I still maintain that this is too expensive. I still say, and I may understand, $287,000 a mile. I may can understand that. But when it comes down to building a road, $287 million per mile, that just doesn't make economic common sense to me. Secondly, this county has yet to extend all alternatives. It has not been done. We are so fixed on completing 526. Another failure is this council. We need to come up with something comprehensive. I've been preaching for the past 10 to 15 years. Let us do something with rail in conjunction of 526. Also, I don't know Mr. Boykin. I've never had a conversation with him. But there comes a time, Mr. Chairman, we have to monitor and adjust. He is absolutely correct. We ought to provide the political courtesy, the political decency, the political decorum to say that we have 2 new members coming here in 19 days with such a major decision, and they have no voice knowing that they're coming on. I think it's very, very unfair. I don't know his ideology. I don't know that of Mr. Kobrowski. I don't know whether they're for or not. But to be fair towards them, I think we need to have this delayed. Let me move on to say that if this were to move forward and 75 million committed, and say, for instance, the 2 newcomers said, we're not in favor of this. Now we are saying we are now losing $75 million. That's somewhat obtuse to me. Another factor is this should be paid by the state, federal government. Here we are in Charleston County. We're willing to tax ourselves to build this road, wherein the state is going to save money by the tax ourselves and use the money they save to go somewhere else. That doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. So I just don't understand, and I don't like to talk about people's individual or collective political ideology, because we always have certain idiosyncrasies or certain idiosyncratic ways that others don't like. But I'm proud to say that I'm a liberal. And yet, when it comes down to conservatism, someone's going to have to define that for me, because I don't see anything that's conservative about $287 million a mile. I don't see anything conservative about that at all. So hopefully, Mr. Swears, with your brand of conservatism, you may be able to define that for me, sir, because I don't understand. Because to me, you know, liberals are blamed for tax and spend, tax and spend. And I'm saying, hold the horses. This is just too much. Mm-hmm. So yet the other side of the aisle, they're saying, let's move forward. So to me, Mr. Chairman, I think it needs to be delayed in respect for Mr. Kabrowski and Mr. Boykin, whom I have had no conversation. I don't even know the gentleman, but to be politically respectful toward them, I think needs to be delayed.
Mr. Swears?
Mr. Darby, you are spot on. This action tonight would be terribly fiscally irresponsible. This would be the most fiscally irresponsible act I have seen in my 16 years, and this is my last night. Well, no, it's not my last night now, since we're having additional meetings. It was going to be my last night, and I apologize for being late. Traffic on 526 was horrendous. It was.
That's right.
And I forgot the meeting was at 4. I thought it was at 5, like all the other ones were. So I apologize. The department head recommendation is what I guess the motion is. The department head in this case is Mr. Armstrong. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong, if I'm not mistaken, Secretary Hall asked for two things. She wanted to go ahead to spend the $150 million. Half would be our responsibility. The other half would be the city's responsibility. Okay, so $75 million each. And the other thing that she asked for was a viable funding plan. Okay, staff has recommended a way, although I disagree with that way. Staff has recommended a potential way to fund our $75 million. Okay, it appears staff is silent though on the part about a viable funding plan. Does staff have a viable funding plan for this?
At this juncture, to satisfy the needs of the FEIS, or the final environmental impact statement, a well-defined plan is not required. A broad-reaching plan will satisfy that requirement. We've discussed the potential of having this as part of a third sales tax referendum for roads projects, greenbelts, and mass transit, and having this included in that, and that satisfies the needs of the FEIS as far as the federal and state government are concerned.
I mean, one certain thing is, I mean, a half-cent sales tax, an additional one, I guess you could get into the billions of dollars. But one certain thing is that the county can't afford to make a mistake here. We're not talking millions anymore. When I first got on council, $1 million was a lot of money 16 years ago. It's amazing now we're talking $1 billion, and it's almost like we're acting like even $1 billion's not a lot of money anymore. I mean, come on, $1 billion? And we're talking about two of those, $2 billion. County responsibility to contract with the SIB is they pay $420, we pay the balance. We go over budget, that's ours. That's ours. Right now, that's estimated to be as much as $1.8 billion with a B, billion dollars. That we don't budget billions of dollars. I mean, that is an incredible sum of money. This is
So the 75 million, if we start spending that money and we realize or we can't prove that we do have a viable plan, we don't come up with a viable plan. The federal government doesn't step up. The state government, and they've already kind of drawn a line in the sand, 420 is their limit. So if none of that happens, the 75 million, that's spent money. We're not just pledging that. We're going to start spending that. The action tonight starts to spend $75 million.
So that's correct. What that gets us is completion of the permitting process, which includes a public hearing. And as we get to go through the permitting, we have elements in there that can reduce the risk. So the $1.75 billion includes a lot of risk at this stage of the game. And we'll be able to reduce that risk as we continue to move forward.
I mean, if we got it down to $1 billion, we can't afford $1 billion. That's with a B again. That's not affordable even at $1 billion. So if we cut it in half, it's still not affordable. So, you know, a half-cent sales tax, when you ask the whole county, do you support building an interstate from West Ashley to Johns Island to James Island? Does the whole county support that? I'm not seeing it. I mean, I think it's wishful thinking. I mean, I don't see most of the county supporting that. Maybe I'm wrong. But if I'm right, we will have spent $75 million and we will get nothing. We will not get that money back. We're already in for a lot of millions. There have been ways proposed to recover that. If we decided this just is not an achievable project. But if we move down the road with 75, we're not getting that back. There's no way. There's no way. So again, in my 16 years on county council, this action would be the most fiscal, irresponsible action I have ever witnessed. And we've done some doozies, but never with this price tag. Never with this price tag.
You done, Mr. Swears? Anybody else? Dr. Wehrman?
Thank you, Chairman. Listen, I'm unsure if you're telling us that I hold a lot of this if we're going to vote on this on Tuesday, but if we're voting to move forward, I mean, I've got some questions and some, frankly, statements as well. I mean, are we saying we're going to move this, or are we going to wait until Tuesday to respond to Reverend Middleton's sort of inquiry?
Well, I would say let's wait until Tuesday and wait on Reverend Middleton's inquiry. We can have a special finance committee meeting on Tuesday as well.
All right, well,
Is there a motion on the floor now?
There's a motion on the floor, but, you know, if she wants to withdraw it, she can. If not, you can take the vote, and if it fails, then, you know, we still can take this up on Tuesday. Get some more information.
How about just move to table?
If that's you can do that if you want to, if you get the support. If somebody said
What time would we schedule Tuesday's meeting?
5 o'clock.
I just moved to table, so if there's a second, we can do that, and I'll hold
Table
back a
until
lot
when?
of this. Till Tuesday.
Okay, is there a second to his motion? Second by who? Who made the second?
I did.
All right, second by Mr. Darby. Okay, Ms. Salisbury, call the roll.
No. Okay. I have a comment.
No more
on the
discussion,
table.
there's a table.
Right, I have a comment on that.
Yeah,
No
I do
comment,
too.
there's a table, you have to take the vote because there's a table.
There's no discussion?
No, sir, not on the table.
Okay.
Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Nay.
Mr. Middleton?
So I know there's no discussion, but I would extend the table to
Mr. Middleton, you can't, you got to vote yes.
Nay.
I know.
Mr. Moody?
Hey.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
Mr. Schweers?
Nay.
This is vote the table, Mrs.
Harmon?
Wiz.
Mr. Werman?
I mean,
They're trying to help you out and you vote against the help?
The table doesn't get us anything. We're just gonna have a
All right,
committee
nay,
meeting
that's
followed by a
fine.
council meeting Tuesday.
You done, cast your vote, so that's fine. So,
Mr. Pryor?
Where are we at?
We're at Mr. Wortman.
Say nay. I mean, listen, I am going to get into it then, though. I mean,
Mr. Wayman, hold on. The vote isn't over with. So you made the motion to table.
got to
You
vote. I'm
voted
sorry.
against-
I'm sorry, Chair.
You voted against your own table?
Well, I mean,
I was trying to help him out, like you
Accomplishes
said.
nothing. Accomplishes nothing?
Absolutely nothing.
He can, if he's voting against it, he should withdraw.
Yeah, if you're gonna vote against, you need to withdraw that. I mean, that's not too much.
You saying withdraw my motion, or you're saying
Order, point of order.
withdraw the motion?
Then is my motion back on the table?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second it. Trying to get motion is on the table to move forward.
Mr. Wortman had
Point of
another
order.
comment, I think.
Yes.
I think would be appropriate. So you said we would have a meeting Tuesday, and that would be a committee meeting followed by a council meeting. So both stacked together, so
Or you can move
whether
it
we
to
discuss
the,
it now.
you
or
can
whether
move
we
it to the
discuss
31st.
Then we're still gonna have another vote on Tuesday.
No, you don't have to, because if it passes, you can discuss it on the 31st. So there's another meeting on the 31st, the third reading of our, what we just passed tonight for the sheriff. You have to have three readings. So the last meeting of this year will be on the 31st of December.
So his table was to table until when?
Tuesday.
Until Tuesday, and then we're gonna have both meetings, so it doesn't make any difference.
Mr. Chair, I would like to offer another table motion to table it until the first appropriate meeting after the new council persons have been seated.
Second.
All right.
Roll.
That's the good one.
Call the roll.
All right, call the roll.
Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt? Nay. Ms. Johnson? Nay. Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Nay.
Mr. Sass?
Nay.
Mr. Schwiers?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye,
So we're tabling it until January.
it's fine with me.
Okay.
So it's tabled, the table passed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I hope the new council persons take note of that when they're trying to establish leadership.
Hope y'all will get with the Transportation Sales Tax Department and get all the information you need and be up to speed, so when we come back in January, you have all that information. Okay?
So we don't need everything on Tuesday?
We do, because we got to vote on
I
it.
have a second reading. We have, yeah, but that's all we're gonna have on Tuesday is a county council meeting for second reading. Okay? All right, let's see, that should complete our finance agenda.
Yes, sir.
Then move into our regularly scheduled county council member meeting where we go to,
We can do the two public hearings now.
the public hearings first.
Yes, sir. Notice is hereby given that Charleston County Council will hold a public hearing on December 15th, 2022 at 5:00 PM to consider an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Metal Trades Incorporated, formerly referred to as Project Torch, and Charleston County.
Miss Salisbury, I hate to ask this, and Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I may be very out of order, but on the Finance Committee agenda, we never discussed 4B. We went and got these sheets for the discussion of the pay increases.
Oh.
Was that something to be discussed?
Yes.
I don't want to miss that.
Okay, all right, let's go back to discussing this. Okay, so the sheet that you have in front of you, if we wanted to increase our employees by 5%, you're looking at 10,200,000. If you wanted to increase it by 10%, 20,415,000, 30,600,000. But a mill increase would be 2.2 for 5%, 4.4 for 10%, and 6.5 for 15%. And as you see, on a $100,000 home, the 5% would be $8.80. $500,000 home, $44, and then $1 million home on $88. And you can see in the columns as you go from 5 the 15. So I wanted to bring this before council. This is something we can discuss in the new year if we want to, but we have to do something before budget time, because if they're going to start preparing the budget, we need to let them know where we're going to be or what we want to do. And if we want to maintain our current employees, as you know, the city just passed, where they're going to start paying $20 an hour. Okay? And so what's going to happen is, if we got people we paying 15, folks are going to leave us and go down there where they get $25 an hour. Doesn't look like much, but that's 40 hours. That's pretty. $200 more a week.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Are we talking pay increase across the entire spectrum?
Every county employee, yes, sir. Every county employee, with the exception of the sheriff's department, if that passes third reading. So just wanted to bring that to your attention because, I mean, there's a war and a battle now for retention of employees. Even the private sector is going up more. I went to a luncheon today, and I saw more former county employees that were working for this individual than I ever seen, because why? Benefits and pay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't think there's a battle of employees making $150,000 plus, knocking down walls, say we're going to leave because we don't make $155,000 or $160,000. I mean, to go across the board, I mean.
Mr. Darby, we can discuss that.
Yes, sir, we'll discuss later on, sir. Thank you, sir.
I wanted to bring it
Yes, sir.
across where everybody can see it and study it. Joe, did you get a copy of this? Yeah, you can have mine, because I got mine in my car. I just got to bring it out, and that be ready for discussion. And Mr. Swayze, you would share yours with Mr. Gabrowski, which you have there. Did you?
I can scan it too.
Send him one.
Okay, all right. So that's where we at on that. I just wanted to bring it to the county's attention. Yes, sir, Mrs. Swayze.
I would like to comment on that, actually. I have heard it said by many council members in the past, any time we wanted to increase spending, we were looking at a millage increase. Every time when budget season comes around, it's always millage increase. And I've always said, well, wait a minute now. The budget goes up, the revenues go up every year without a millage increase. And so, well, how's that? It's like, because we're a growing county, so revenues increase. So just because we're talking, and it won't be me next year, but just because we're talking about giving employees some additional salary, that doesn't necessarily translate into a millage increase. It can, but that is not necessarily the case. Another thing that I have always had concerns about was fund balance and what we, like rainy day fund and things like that. We tend to be pretty generous on those, and I get that, and I realize our credit rating is very important, but some years we need to get lean. And next year might be one of those. I mean, the COVID created problems that we had never seen before. I get that. But actually our funding, our revenues were actually much higher than we anticipated each year during that. Okay, so we're going to have to get a kind of a settling in back to reasonable, predictable budgets. So I would not assume that increasing employee pay necessarily means a millage increase. I just wanted to get that said, because I won't be here next year to say it.
Thank you. Good point. All right, so now we go into our public comments. Ms. Salisbury?
Okay. I already read the first public hearing.
All right, is there any speakers? All right, any comments from council? Next one.
Notice is hereby given that Charleston County Council will hold a public hearing on an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu and tax agreement by and between Charleston County and Zeltwanger CNC Manufacturing, an entity previously identified by the county as Project Z.
Anybody signed up? Okay, anything from council members? Okay, that's it?
Yes, sir.
All right, so now we are going to reopen our county council meeting, where we move to item 2B, honoring Ms. Johnson and Mr. Swears. I think we do have a plaque. Are you a? You go to them, okay. All right, so Mr. Swears, if you and Ms. Johnson would come forward, we're going to give you each one of these here, if y'all would come forward. Ms. Johnson for his ladies first.
Executive session.
Ms. Johnson? I want to thank you for being here in service, rather than service, and dedication to this county. You've done a great job. You've made a lot of great strides and changes to help the people in your area as well as throughout Charleston County. And this is no token from here and county council members here. I salute you, and we give you this. And if you want to have words, go right ahead, and I'll get Mr. Swayze.
We want to thank you and the council members for this recognition. Was not going to say much, and since you gave me this opportunity, maybe I better take it right now. When I first came to county council, I came thinking that I would work to help the community get a road paved, Honey Hill Road. Y'all probably have heard this before. I worked really hard to do that, and that was accomplished in the first 2 years. We're still talking about roads, but more than that, service is about bringing the community up, not the individual that you elected. So I didn't come here to be raised in any form, but to serve the communities that I thought was being left out. I didn't get a chance to speak very much about the 526, so I'm going to take this opportunity right now just to do this.
Can we do that during closing comment?
Just a few minutes. Just a few minutes. I have to say this because when I first came on council, we were talking about 526 as well. And we're still talking about 526, and I'm getting ready to leave. And I didn't get a chance to say much about it, anything about it. This is the #1 tourist destination in South Carolina. And I think we have been #1 like about 10 years. Whatever amount of years that is, keep in mind people are going to continue to come here. And we have money now that was allocated, $420 million from the state, to use only for that. I want people to keep that in mind. I'm going to say some more later, but I just had to say this because it's on my mind that I started with this road. 526 was one, and Honey Hill Road, and I'm still here, but I want to thank all of you that supported me in my election here on Charleston County. It has been a joy to be here and to work with all of you, and I know we had some good days, and we had some bad days. But guess what? We all brothers and sisters in love and peace. Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Swears, on behalf of Charleston County Council, in your 16 years, this is just a little token. We've been on different sides of the aisle, but one thing I had and you have is respect for each other. And that respect still continues. Your ideology and my ideology and your constituents and my constituents are totally different. Just like you fight for yours, I told you the other day, I fight for mine. And so I always say, you don't take it personal, it's just business. And so I thank you for your 16 years of service, and we're going to miss you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anything you'd like to say, sir?
We're going to make him a fiscal conservative by the time this is over.
I already am.
I certainly don't have anything prepared. At times this has been the most frustrating thing I have ever done in my life. And at other times, it's been the most rewarding. So, I wasn't going to get choked up.
Well, at least you don't have to drive all those miles. And,
Hour and a half to get here today.
Don't use 526 anymore. You against 526. I'm down 17,
I could probably done
and
it in
you
an hour
probably
without
41,
526.
and you'll be stuck even more.
Anyway, it's been awesome. It's a great county, and I wish Joe and Larry the best of luck. It's a challenge, but it's very rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now move to item number 3, it's third reading. Yeah.
This is a token of our appreciation, not only in your District 8, but Ms. Anna helped everybody in Charleston County. So I wanted to show our appreciation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, Ms. Salisbury, we go to 3.
Yes, sir. An ordinance rezoning the real properties located at 3245 Mill Street and 355 Dunmire Road, parcel identification numbers 38515000017 and 38515000031 from the low-density residential R4 zoning district to the Mill Crossing Estates Plan Development PD 180 zoning district. Mr. Darby? Aye. Mrs. Honeycutt?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
Mr. Schwiers?
Aye.
Mr. Werman?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Ordinance passes third reading with 9 ayes.
3B.
An ordinance authorizing the execution of and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Metal Trades Incorporated, the company formerly referred to as Project Torch, and Charleston County, whereby Charleston County will enter into a fee in lieu of tax agreement with the company and providing for payment by the company of certain fees in lieu of ad valorem taxes, providing for special source revenue or infrastructure improvement credits, providing for the allocation of fees in lieu of taxes payable under the agreement for the establishment of a multi-county industrial business park and other matters relating thereto. Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
Mr. Schwiers?
Aye.
Mr. Werman?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
The ordinance passes third reading with 9 ayes.
3C.
An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Charleston County and Zeltwanger CNC Manufacturing LP, an entity previously identified by the county as Project Z, including any related or affiliated entities and any sponsor affiliates, whereby Charleston County will enter into a fee in lieu of taxes arrangement with the company, providing for payment by the company of certain fees in lieu of ad valorem taxes, providing for the allocation of fee in lieu of taxes paid by the company under the agreement for establishment of multi-county industrial business park and other matters relating thereto. Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
Mr. Schwiers?
Aye.
Mr. Werman?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Ordinance passes third reading with 9 ayes.
All right, item 4A.
Recommendations A and B.
Okay.
Second.
Second, and all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes have it, first reading.
An ordinance amending the Buckland Plantation Plan Development Zoning District PD 152 to Buckland Plantation Plan Development Zoning District PD 152A. And an ordinance rezoning the real property located at 10213 and 10191 Highway 78, 3219, 3221, 3223, and 3243 Von Ocean Road and Chisholm Road. Parcel identification numbers 38800000118, 38800000119, 178, 177, 139, and 140 from low-density residential R4 zoning district, rezoning the real property located at 10221 Highway 78, parcel identification number 38800000116 from the neighborhood commercial NC zoning district, rezoning the real property located at 10179, 10165, and 10151 Highway 78, parcel identification numbers 38800000223, 163, and 443 from Highway 78 Business Park Plan Development PD 70 zoning district to the Elms Glen Plan Development PD 184 zoning district.
Okay, item number 5 is consent agenda A through F. What is the pleasure?
Move to approve.
All right, that's committee recommendation. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes have it. 6A and B.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Ayes have it. That concludes our,
That's 6D, or 6E, the sheriff's office.
60, where is that at? I didn't-
It's on the next page.
Okay, we go 6D.
E.
D is all, 6E.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
What is the committee recommendation on that?
The
Fund balance.
option B, fund balance. Yes, Reverend, I mean, Mr. Moody.
You got me on record tonight. Keeping consistent with prior motion tonight, I would move that we table this item until new members are seated in January.
Second.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Ms. Salisbury, call the roll.
Mr. Darby?
Nay.
Mrs. Honeycutt?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson? Mr. Middleton? Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Sass? Mr. Schwiers? Mr. Werman?
Nay.
Mr. Pryor?
No.
The motion to table passes 6-3.
All right, well, we brought back up in January, so it's no need for no more meetings.
Yes, sir. Good.
Good. You can cancel that and let them know there's no need for no more meetings because
Schwiers?
then council member. I mean, it failed in, council. Okay, that concludes our county council agenda. We're now moving for closing comments. I'm going down to
Yeah, we did that.
my left, Mr. Werman.
No, nothing tonight, Mr. Chairman.
And I'm going to go to Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had said some comments back in November to Ms. Johnson about her service, and I wanted to reiterate those and also thank Mr. Schwiers for his service. Long time in, my budget partner. We've found a lot of common ground the last couple of years. I've enjoyed working with you, and we will miss your memory. It's a steel trap. You know where a lot of the bodies are buried, so don't be afraid to let us know when we're stepping in another pothole, except for 526. You're wrong on that, but we'll talk about that later. Thank you, Mr. Schwiers, for your service. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Werman?
I did not realize the implication for our final two meetings of the last vote. I do want to take some time as well to recognize Vice Chairwoman Johnson and Councilman Schwiers for their admirable service, and I've learned so much from both of you in the short time I've been able to serve alongside you. But certainly would be remiss if I had our last meeting here without telling you how much I admire both of your leadership and your service, and thank you so much again for teaching me.
Mr. Sass?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to echo that. I've enjoyed serving with you, Anna, and with Dickie, and it's been a lot of fun times, been a lot of tough times, but we've all made it through. We're all friends, and all, like you said, all brothers and sisters. So we've all worked hard together to get a lot done. Dickie, especially miss you with a lot of your guidance when I first began on council and before I became on council. So I appreciate that as well. I'm going to miss both of you. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and see y'all next year.
Okay, I'm going to move to Mr. Darby.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Anna, Ms. Johnson, it was a privilege, honor, blessing, and opportunity to work along with you, ma'am. Since your first being here, I could tell that you were altruism, that you actually cared for your constituents specifically and Charleston County collectively. You come from an humble background. Frederick Douglass once espoused, it's not the height that one reaches, but it's the depth from whence one has come. And you have come a very far way. You haven't forgotten who you are. I've been told you went up north for a number of years, but then you decided to come back home to say, I'm going to help my community. That is admirable. I once heard of a very important man who left the heavens to come down to earth. So I'll leave that right there. Mr. Schwiers, no offense to the others, but you are a true intellect. You're very contemplative. You're very discerning. Based upon your perspicacious analysis and my analysis, we often got into what I call the paralysis of analysis in terms of iron sharpening irons. We have not always concurred and agreed, but we did act civil to the point that we have gone out once or twice, to the point that you have shared turkeys and crabs for me, sir. So, but I do appreciate, and I know probably may get tired of my saying this, but I do appreciate your definition of conservatism, because based upon my growing up and what has transpired, sir, my generation can't get rid of that, sir. But knowing you, you really have changed my mind, sir, in terms of not placing all conservatives in the same bag, sir. And I appreciate that, and that has lent to my understanding value of others, and I'm very appreciative of that, sir.
Very kind of you.
Ms. Honeycutt, I'm sorry, I went to Mr. Darby, you charged it to my
That's-
head and not my heart.
That's okay. I'll be happy to go next. Yeah, I have a few things to say tonight. First off, I want to make clear that my vote not to table this was not to take Ms. Johnson's chance to vote for this away. Ms. Johnson, it has been an honor to serve with you. It is my understanding of how council government runs that when you are elected by the people, you serve until you are finished. And I understand that you have another meeting, that was tonight, and you were entitled to vote. I don't think it changes the vote. From my knowledge of Mr. Boykin and his campaign, Mr. Middleton said it himself. Is he supportive of this project? We are going to move this project forward. I look forward to working with you on it. I look forward to working with Mr. Kobrovsky. And I appreciate all the work that has been done this far. It is an absolutely critical project to our region. And so I don't think tonight's vote to hold it up or to move it forward changes the outcome. But I did think it appropriate for Ms. Johnson, who has worked for 12 years on this, to have the right to vote on it. So Ms. Johnson, I want to say thank you for everything you've done. We've obviously had some differences, but I respect and value, and one thing that I have learned a lot from you is to slow down a little bit and think it through. I have a habit of being a bit impulsive at times, and so
Yes.
you have really taught me how to step back and look at every angle, and I appreciate that. It has made me a better person. Mr. Schwiers, I appreciate all that you have done for this council as well. If we do have another referendum, I am going to request we have more in the Greenbelt pot for it, because you have taught me what conservation looks like and how to do it right. We have one of the most incredible, exemplary Greenbelt programs that exists, and I think we have done incredible work in preserving parts of Charleston County, both within and outside the urban growth boundary, as a result of a lot of the work you have done, and I appreciate that. And I understand that, yes, there's some things we disagree on, but you have always made me think deeply, as Mr. Darby says, about those issues, and I appreciate your service, and I thank you. The last thing I want to say, though, is this being the holidays and our last meeting of the year, they are joyous for many people. And for many people, they are very hard. And this week, we've lost public figures, Twitch, who many of you may know, Stephen Boss, and we lost a member of the legal community. And we have done incredible work through our Deotis facility. We've gotten grants to go out for this opioid crisis that we're facing. I want to say thank you. The government is making a difference in these areas. But if you hear what I'm saying tonight and you want to talk or you need help, please, please reach out to someone. My personal phone number is on all of the websites. You can call me and I will try to get you the help you need. But we do have resources for that. And I want to say thank you to our staff for all that you have done to help us meet those needs in the community. Thank you.
You're welcome, Reverend Middleton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you again to Ms. Johnson and Mr. Swears for your outstanding service. I am deeply moved and touched, and my life has been enriched by both of you. I don't know who assigned me this seat on this end, but I am so grateful that I've had these 2 years to be seatmates.
Thank me later.
Yes, well, thank you. Well, with Mr. Swears, because he's often been like an anchor on this end, of the dais, helping me understand how to be consistent, how to allow your vote and your conscience and your ethics to align, how to remain respectful amidst the changing tides of all of the political winds that blow. And so I am deeply appreciative of everything you stand for, who you are. In fact, we didn't know it, but of course, I have a house in Pawleys Island, lived in Georgetown County for 18 years, and many of my members were also worked in tandem with Mr. Swears at Santee Cooper, and somehow had excellent things to say about him. Ms. Johnson, I don't know how you do it. She's like the energizer, and she's inspirational and aspirational and motivational. And so I thank God for you, for your heart and your passion for helping people. Being a pastor, I'm all over this county and all over a lot of different places, but particularly the rural areas, to include Wadmalaw, Johns Island, Hollywood, Meggett, all those Edisto, those areas. And I cannot find a person, white, black, green, or blue, that does not know or thank you for the work that you have done, particularly for those well and septic systems out in those areas, and the issues that many of us never, consider are, to be those hot button items, but those issues that are the bread and butter, life-sustaining issues to individuals in their communities. You have been a champion. And for that, I remember when I first got elected to council, you gave me an assignment. You said, go out there to the recycling facility. She gave me some homework. And I went to every one because she had some specific things that she wanted me to come back and report back to her as it relates to the disparities and inequities and how the least of them are being treated. And I appreciate that level of involvement, engagement, care, concern, and compassion. And then to all of us, this is the Advent season, and I'm a minister. I'm the first minister, ordained pastor to serve on council. First, among other firsts. But as a part of just my human responsibility as a person who breathes air, the love, hope, joy, and peace that's afforded in this season particularly, may it be yours not only today, but forever. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Swears, I'll go to you now, Ms. Johnson.
All right, Mr. Chairman, about a month ago, I was thinking about, wow, 16 years sure did fly by, and I thought, well, the last meeting, hopefully it'll be kind of a quiet meeting. And as the agenda evolved over the last week or so, I thought, boy, this ain't gonna be a quiet meeting. And today was rather hectic. On the phone all day long, looking at emails all day long. Probably got 100 of them on here now that, between the time I sat down and here. But so my emotions have been all over the place today. But 16 years, planned on doing about 8, thought that's plenty. That'll be doing my service. And 16 years later, this is it. So I appreciate everybody.
Okay, Ms. Johnson? Get back to Anna.
Okay, sir, thank you. To Mr. Middleton, Reverend Middleton, I want to say to you and all the others here that I've been inspired to serve in this county because of my upbringings. And I'm going to try to take my little time here so you can get what I'm talking about. So I'm the product of a James Island farmer. My mother, grandmother, great-grandfather, they all were farmers on James Island. And while my great-grandfather had his own cotton farm, before that he served on the plantation. And from his beginning on James Island to me going to work on the plantation, the tomato farms, cucumber farms, etc., I thought one day, you know, this is not going to be for me. So I left James Island and Charleston, South Carolina, and I went to the big city, the Big Apple. And when I got there, they asked me where I was from. And I said, I was from a big place. I thought Charleston was a big place because I had never left Charleston County. Never saw anything else. But I'm so thankful that whomever the business person was that told me I could not work in the restaurant that I went to apply for a job, caused me to go to New York because I saw a bigger picture of life. And I saw that things could be better for people like me. I stayed in New York for a while, and then I went to Tennessee. But guess what? I ended up coming right back here to Charleston. And I'm glad I came and stayed. I thought several times I would leave here because I thought that Charleston was just not the place that I could make a living, a decent living, to stay here. But thank goodness my mother lived to be 93, and I stayed here because of her. So now I ended up running for the town of James Island Council. That's how I got started. Never thought I was going to be a politician. But just knowing that the basic service that people needed on James Island was something that I was interested in providing. And that's what got me on James Island County Council, on James Island Town Council. And now the same thing for Charleston County Council. I'm a little bit saddened that it took a lawsuit for me to get here. But I'm here because of diversity. Charleston is a beautiful place. I tell people all the time. We got the beaches here. We got nice warm weather, beautiful trees. The scenery is not like New York, where you have all of the smog back in the 70s and people had litter all over the place. Beautiful place. But guess what? We should add to that much care and love for other people who don't look like us. We should love each other because we didn't make ourselves. I didn't decide I was going to be black. You didn't decide what color you were going to be. But we all here. And why can't we work together in harmony? We can disagree, but we need to work in harmony. And don't feel like other people don't deserve to have certain things. Just the basic of life. You mentioned about the water and the septic tanks. That really bothered me that Wadma law doesn't have that. Clean water. Edisto, same thing. And even sadder, the people are afraid sometimes to even say that, well, we wish we had clean water coming into the area because others don't want it. And I hear about, let's keep it the same, let's keep it the same. Well, you know, I'm glad Jamestown is not the same because we had to go to Charleston for everything. Everything. And people shouldn't have to leave Eddystone and Wadmalaw and all that to go someplace else. But y'all, this is the time to wake up. Because from what I hear that's going on in Eddystone now, you're not going to have young people sitting around waiting until you get ready to give them something. When they get ready, they're just going to go take it. They're not going to wait for you. Some of us waited for our parents to say, well, okay, you have permission to talk. You can speak now. The children today is not like that. And we need to listen to them. Because we're not going to be so young ourselves, as some of our here can tell. It has been a pleasure for me to serve because I've seen a lot of changes, but a whole lot more still needs to be done. And I just hope that the next council is able to address that and continue to move forward. I pray that it doesn't take another lawsuit from the Justice Department to make sure that some of these things happen. Because when others feel like they're being left out, they will challenge the hell out of you. I don't want to let that be my last word. So, I love you all, and Mr. Moody talks all the time about being in the classroom with my son, and I thought, that's a great thing. But you know what? At the end of the day, we all got to recognize each other for who we are. So y'all, I'm black and I'm proud. Thank you so much.
I'm not sure I really want to follow that. Gave a long speech. I just want to very quickly say to both Ms. Johnson, Mr. Schweers, thank you for your service to the county. Thank you for your humility while serving Charleston County. You've each provided guidance to me. It is greatly appreciated. Mr. Schweers, I have thoroughly enjoyed our spirited conversations, as you call them. I will miss them. I will miss cutting up here with Ms. Johnson, because what y'all don't know, as I've learned, Ms. Johnson has a wicked sense of humor. And if you don't know that, you have missed out. So you will both be missed. Thank you very much.
Ms. Ham?
Yes, sir. To Councilwoman Johnson and to Councilman Swears, I just want to say thank you both. A, for your support in me sitting in this seat. B, for your service to this county. It is certainly admirable. I appreciate all the conversations that we've had, the many times that I said, well, maybe you can do it this way, not that way, kind of thing. It's been a pleasure to serve you both, and I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Swears, I've said my piece, but as you know, Mr. Darby hit it. You're very conservative, and I think me and you and Mr. Darby have a lot in common. Just that when it comes to certain issues, we see it differently. And one thing I can say about you is, if you thought you said something wrong, or did something wrong, or you thought you was wrong, you would pick up the phone and call. We've had that conversation either on the way going home or the next day on my way going to work. Mr. Swears would be saying, can you talk? So I admire you for that, and I admire your passion and your belief. And you've done a lot for this county, especially in the Greenbelt program. And don't go away. There's plenty boards and commissions that you can serve on that will be vital to this county. But again, thank you for 16 years of excellent service. I mean, driving back and forth all the way out to McClellanville must have had to be a nightmare. But you committed, and you came to meetings when you shouldn't have, but you still came. And I admire that about you, and this county is better off with you being in that seat. And so if there's anything I can do to further your cause, you give me a call. And if we agree, fine. If we disagree, we're still friends. And I really mean that. I think you're an honorable person. Ms. Johnson? Yes, sir. You are. Ms. Johnson, to you, when you first came on this council, you were willing to work. You said to me about the rural area, you needed help. out in the rural area. I came out, I looked, rode around. We did many good things together for your constituents in the rural area. We took a lot of heat, but it was worth the heat because those folks paid taxes too. I always said they paid taxes, but they got less. They paid a half penny sales tax, and most of the time they only get a bus ride or maybe some type of green belt. But you've done a lot, and you're a consistent fighter, and you don't give up. If you got an idea, Ms. Johnson's going to call you and call you and call you until she basically gets what she wants. Or she sees, well, I just can't do it because it's no way it's going to work. But I'm still going to be taking the phone calls. I'm going to call you, Ms. Johnson, whether y'all know it or not. Every morning on my way to work, I'm talking to Ms. Johnson. And I said, Ms. Johnson, I got to go up the elevator. I'll call you later. But, she would say, well, I want you to look at this. We need to do this, and we need to do that. And I admire you for that, Ms. Johnson. So, don't give up. I've got something for you to do already. And, sign something to your hand. The libraries, you did a great job with the library. Yes, sir. Very, very great job with the libraries. And I can tell you right now, I know Ms. Craig, and I'm proud of you being a part of that board. And you reported back to us every time, something needed to be done. And we admire you for that. And so this is not the end. This is just the beginning. Because when one door closed, another door opened.
Another chapter.
You see? And so sometimes, we have plans, but the good Lord have other plans for us. And the only way, we get to those plans, he has to make changes. And so don't consider this as a loss, but consider this as the next move and the next step. So in the back, Ms. Salisbury has prepared some goodies for you and Mr. Swears and the rest of council. But I would be remiss if I don't let Ms. Salisbury say a few words too. I should have went to her earlier because she served both of y'all and along with Ms. Craven. So Ms. Salisbury, I'm gonna let you close it out.
Thank you both for your service and for allowing me the opportunity to serve my community as well. I really do appreciate that.
Okay, that being said, meeting adjourned.
Thank you, sir.